My husband left with his girlfriend, leaving me $20,000 in debt. Then my 10-year-old son shocked me. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
I still remember the day like it happened yesterday. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the air thick with the smell of burnt coffee, the clock ticking loudly in the silence of my small apartment. My hands were shaking, though I didn't know why at first. Something felt wrong, though I couldn't put my finger on it. I thought it was just the stress of the day. Bills to pay, my son's school reports, laundry piled up like little towers of guilt. But deep inside, a voice whispered that things were about to change. Forever. It all started earlier that morning. I woke up to the sound of the front door closing softly. At first, I thought it was normal, my husband leaving for work. But then there was no sound of his car engine, no footsteps upstairs later, no signs of him coming back. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe he had an early meeting or something unexpected came up. But hours passed, and by the time my son, Jamie, came home from school, I still hadn't heard from him. Jamie looked different that day. His small shoulders seemed heavier, and he avoided looking at me directly. I asked him about his day, but he only muttered something under his breath and ran off to his room. Something in my chest tightened. I had learned over time that when my son hides something, it's serious. By evening, the truth began to seep in, and it came in the worst way possible. My phone rang. It was a woman's voice, calm yet cold. "Alec, I think you deserve to know. Your husband, he's not coming back." That line felt like an axe to my chest. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I could barely process her words. My mind screamed at me to understand what she meant. She continued, "He's with me. He left. I'm so sorry." Those words sank like stones. I didn't know if I should scream or cry. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. My world, my life, the life I had built for years, just shattered. I stood there in silence for a long moment. Then the next words hit me even harder. "Alec, you need to check your bank account." My fingers trembled as I reached for my phone. I opened my banking app, and there it was, a number that made my stomach drop. $20,000 gone. Every cent I had saved, wiped away. My head spun. How? Why? My husband, the man I trusted with my life, had left me alone, drowning in debt. Jamie came into the kitchen then. I could hear his footsteps, quiet but heavy. I looked at him and forced a smile I didn't feel. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at the phone in my hand, then back at me. His eyes were full of confusion, fear, but also something else, determination. Then he said something I'll never forget, something so strange, so unexpected, that it froze me in place. "Mom, maybe it's a test." A test. His words echoed in my mind, and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My son, barely 10 years old, saying something that made no sense. But the tone in his voice, quiet, almost certain, gave me pause. What did he mean by that? How could he possibly understand what was happening? And why did those words stir something inside me? I wanted to rush to my husband, to scream at him, to beg him to explain. But there was no going back. My life had changed in an instant. I was left alone, with my son, with this debt, and with the shadow of a betrayal I couldn't yet understand. That night, I lay awake listening to the creaks of the apartment, my mind racing. My heart kept returning to Jamie's words. Maybe it's a test. What if he was right? What if this pain, this loss, was not the end, but the start of something else, something I couldn't yet see? The air felt heavy with questions that had no answers. Why would he leave? How could he abandon us like that? What would happen to Jamie and me? The truth was, I didn't know, and that uncertainty, it was the most terrifying part of all. I knew one thing for certain though. I couldn't let this break me. Not for Jamie, not for myself. Somehow, I had to face the debt, the loss, the betrayal. Somehow, I had to find a way forward. But the question that haunted me more than anything was this. How do you rebuild a life when the foundation you trusted crumbles beneath you? And that's where my story begins. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet apartment. Jamie was still asleep, curled under his blanket like nothing had changed, and the silence felt heavier than the night before. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the floor, trying to piece together the chaos of yesterday. My phone still felt like a burning thing in my hand. The message, the debt, the betrayal. I didn't want to believe it, yet deep down, I knew it was true. I moved through the day like a ghost. At work, I was distracted. My mind kept drifting back to the phone call. My husband, the man I had promised to share my life with, gone. And the money, gone too. It wasn't just a bank balance. It was years of hard work, dreams we planned together, security we promised each other. And suddenly, all of it was dust. That night, Jamie sat beside me at the kitchen table. He didn't say much. Instead, he quietly pulled a notebook from his desk and began drawing. I watched him, wondering if he even realized what had happened. Finally, after what felt like hours of silence, he spoke. "Mom, I know it hurts, but maybe we can fix it." His voice was small, almost a whisper, but there was a strange firmness in it, like he'd decided something I hadn't yet understood. I forced a smile. "Fix what, Jamie?" I asked softly, though my voice broke. He looked up at me with those big, serious eyes and said, "Everything. Us. This. Life." His words hung in the air, heavy and strange. I wanted to comfort him, but I couldn't find the words. Instead, I just held his hand. The days after that blurred together. Bills kept arriving, each one a reminder of the debt, the letters, the calls, the constant reminders from the bank made me feel like I was drowning. I tried calling my husband, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I sent messages that stayed unread. It was as if he had vanished entirely, taking not just his presence, but also his responsibility. One afternoon, while cleaning Jamie's room, I found something tucked away in his drawer. It was a small scrap of paper, folded neatly. On it, in childish handwriting, were the words, "Stay strong. We can do this." I couldn't stop myself from crying. How could he, a 10-year-old boy, understand strength better than I did? How could he already be carrying the weight of my broken world without even knowing it? The next week was a turning point. I decided I couldn't keep living in a constant state of fear and confusion. I needed answers, and I needed a plan. I started researching ways to handle debt, ways to rebuild. I stayed up late into the night, reading blogs, watching videos, taking notes. It felt like preparing for a battle I didn't fully understand. But the harder I worked, the more I realized something. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't going to crumble under betrayal. And maybe, Just maybe, it was about showing Jamie that even when everything falls apart, you can stand back up. One night, I sat with Jamie at the table again. The apartment was quiet, except for the sound of our forks scraping plates. He looked up at me and said, "Mom, maybe he left us for a reason. Maybe he couldn't handle what was coming. But that means it's on us now." I wanted to argue, to tell him I didn't know if I could do it. But something in his voice, something fierce and innocent at the same time, pushed me to keep going. Days turned into weeks. I started working extra hours, picking up odd jobs after work. I gave up nights out, in small comforts, just to scrape together enough to pay something toward the debt. Jamie helped too, saving the little money he got from doing chores for neighbors. We became a strange little team, broken, but moving forward together. But no matter what I did, the shadow of betrayal was always there. I couldn't stop imagining him somewhere else, living without a care while we suffered. And the pain kept growing, not just because of the money, but because of the silence, the not knowing why. One rainy evening, I was sitting alone on the porch after putting Jamie to bed when my phone rang. No number showed up. My heart skipped a beat. Hesitantly, I answered. A voice, not his, but hers again, said only one thing. "He's coming back. But things won't be the same." Then the line went dead. My hands trembled. My breath caught. I didn't know whether to feel relief or fear. That night, Jamie slept soundly, unaware of the call. But I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what that meant. Was this the end of the storm, or just another chapter of it? And I realized something terrifying. The real struggle wasn't about the money anymore. It was about finding out who I was when everything I knew was gone. I didn't have the answers yet, but one thing was certain. My life had changed forever, and whatever came next, there was no turning back. That night, I couldn't sleep. The rain outside was relentless, pounding against the windows like it was trying to warn me. My mind was a storm of its own, swirling with anger, confusion, and something heavier, grief. I kept turning over that phone call in my head. He's coming back, but things won't be the same. Those words felt like a threat and a promise all at once. I woke early the next morning with a strange determination. Jamie was still asleep, curled under his blanket, the soft rise and fall of his chest somehow grounding me. I watched him for a long time before slipping out of bed. I knew I couldn't wait any longer to face this head-on. The debt, the betrayal. I had to find out why. Midday. I was walking through a neighborhood I hadn't been to in years. My feet moved without thinking, guiding me toward a small cafe where I knew he used to go. I told myself it was just curiosity, but deep down, I knew I was searching for answers. When I arrived, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. I scanned every face, looking for the man who had once been my husband. And then, there he was, sitting alone at a corner table, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. He looked tired, but there was a calmness in his eyes that made my chest tighten. I approached him slowly. My legs felt heavy, my mind screaming at me to turn back, but I couldn't, not now. He looked up, and his face changed. Not surprise, not guilt, but something unreadable. "I didn't expect you to find me," he said quietly. His voice was low, but it carried that familiar tone I had once loved. "Why?" The word escaped me before I could stop it. Why leave us? Why take the money? Why disappear? My voice cracked, and I hated how small it sounded. He didn't answer at first. He just stared at me, like he was weighing something too heavy to speak. Then finally, he sighed. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting him. His words hit me like a punch. Protecting us? By disappearing and leaving us with nothing? By burying me in debt? My voice rose, though I fought to keep it steady. I didn't know how to handle it, he admitted. The debts, the pressure, everything. I thought if I left, I could fix it without dragging you down. I was wrong. A silence followed. The kind of silence that makes your own breathing sound loud. I wanted to scream, cry, slap him, hug him. I wanted every reaction all at once. But instead, I just stood there, looking at him, feeling the pieces of our life scattered at my feet. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out. An envelope. He slid it across the table toward me. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a set of papers, proof of a plan he had made to pay back the debt, a timeline, a bank account number with deposits already made. It should have been relief. But instead, I felt emptiness. The money could be replaced, but trust? Trust could not. Before I could say anything, he stood up. I have to go, he said softly. Whatever happens now, know this. I'm sorry. Then he walked away. I sat there staring at the envelope, my hands shaking. Outside, the rain had stopped, but inside me, a storm was raging. When I finally got home that night, Jamie was waiting. He looked at me, sensing something had changed. I knelt down beside him, and without thinking, I pulled him close. He came back, I whispered. But things, they'll never be the same. He nodded slowly. Then maybe we fix them ourselves. Those words stayed with me long after he went to bed, because deep down, I knew he was right. This wasn't the end. It was the hardest part of the story, and we were standing right in the middle of it. And for the first time since it all began, I felt something stir inside me. Not fear, not sadness, but something stronger, determination. Because whatever betrayal, whatever debt, whatever pain lay ahead, I wasn't going to let it break us. Not me, not Jamie. The question wasn't if we could survive this. It was how we would rise from it. And I knew the answer would define us forever. The next morning felt different. The air in our little home was heavier somehow, but also quieter. Jamie and I sat together at the kitchen table, the envelope of papers between us. Sunlight streamed in through the blinds, cutting across the table in golden lines. For the first time in weeks, I felt a strange calm. I looked at Jamie, and he looked back at me. No words were needed. We both knew something had shifted, not fixed, but shifted. The debt was still there, and the hurt still lingered. But now there was clarity. I spent the day calling banks, making plans, checking numbers. The papers he left showed a path forward, one that would take years to walk, but at least it was there. And with that came a strange kind of relief, not because the problem was gone, but because now I could face it. Later, I took Jamie to the park. We sat on the swings together, the quiet sound of children laughing around us. Jamie didn't speak much. He just let me hold his hand. And for the first time in a long while, I felt peace. Not perfect peace, but the kind that comes after storms. That night, I tucked Jamie into bed and stayed there a while. I watched him sleep, his small chest rising and falling. He was the reason I had to be strong, the reason I couldn't give up, no matter how hard this was. I thought about the man I had once trusted, the man who left, the man who came back. And I realized this wasn't just about us. This was about the countless people who suffer in silence, crushed by debt, betrayal, or injustice. Our story wasn't unique. It was a mirror of so many lives. Lives where trust is broken, and yet people find a way to keep going. Where the weight of the world doesn't crush them completely. The truth is, life rarely gives clear answers, but it gives choices. And I chose to fight, to keep going. For Jamie, for myself, for the future. As I closed my eyes that night, I asked myself a question I knew would stay with me forever. How much pain does it take before a person learns to rise again? I don't know the answer yet, but I do know this: we will rise. Because life doesn't stop at betrayal. It doesn't stop at debt. It doesn't stop at loss. Life keeps moving, and so must we. This is my story, not a perfect one, not a finished one, but my own, and maybe that's what makes it worth telling. Days turned into weeks, and life began to settle into a strange, new rhythm. The debt was still there, a looming shadow over our small home, but it no longer felt like an impossible mountain. It felt like a challenge, one Jamie and I would face together. I found myself growing stronger. Every call I made to banks, every late night of sorting papers, every plan I sketched out brought me a little closer to breathing freely again. I began to see that what had seemed like an ending was actually the start of something new. Jamie started school again, his laughter slowly returning. At night, we would talk quietly before bed, sharing stories of the day. I watched him grow braver, and in turn, I learned to be braver too. One evening, I stood by the window, staring out at the world beyond. I thought about the man who had left us, and what he had done. I thought about trust and forgiveness and the heavy weight of promises broken. It would have been easier to hate him forever, but I couldn't. I had learned something harder, that life wasn't about perfect endings. It was about choosing how to move forward despite everything. I looked at Jamie asleep in the next room and realized this was the real lesson. Life doesn't owe us fairness. It doesn't promise a smooth road, but it gives us a choice, to surrender or to stand tall. And so I chose to stand, to build something new from the ruins, to teach Jamie that even after heartbreak, even after betrayal, even when everything feels lost, you can still find strength inside yourself. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if the debt will ever be fully paid, or if the trust will ever fully heal. But I do know this: we survived. We kept going. And maybe that's enough. So I ask you now, when life breaks you down, when everything you've built seems to disappear, what will you choose? Will you crumble? Or will you rise? Because that is the question that defines us all. And in that moment, I knew we would rise.